This is Jimmy and Eries, and we're here at the Red Tape Real Talk podcast with Jennifer Barnhill. I state your name.
Hi, Jennifer Barnhill. I'm a military family reporter, and I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. You've spent your career telling the stories of people in service. And so tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the stories that you've enjoyed telling.
So I am a Navy spouse. That's what brought me to this space. And I have been covering military families because I first started just seeing a problem. And, you know, a lot of people in our community will sometimes create a nonprofit. They will, serve in their way, but my way is reporting and researching. And so that's kind of how I started writing about the military family community specifically. I have a master's in public administration, so I know the inner workings of how things should go in theory and how things do go and play out in real life. And so reporting on this community has been just eye-opening, and it's personal too, right? So it's exciting.
And Jennifer, I'll say for all of the viewers out there, Jennifer and I we go back to my days of working at the White House and watching and seeing you do your thing, right? And covering public servants across DC and the Beltway, and telling those stories in a very, very, very unique way, and also with the lived experience that comes with that. So, first, I think we're at MIC, right? Yeah. This is Military Influencers Conference. Tell us a little bit about your book. We know that you were doing the road show, so tell us a little bit about it.
So it's called The Military Stories You've Been Told and the Ones You Need to Hear, and it really just looks at some ideas that we know about the military. So, for example, no man left behind. It's an ideal, it's a promise we make to those who serve. As Americans, we promise that, and our government promises that. But what does that look like? This book kind of looks at themes like that and looks at the stories behind the scenes of how that plays out. No Man Left Behind, in that chapter, looks at some historical spouses. So if you're familiar with the POWs from Vietnam, it looks at Sybil Stockdale and their organization called the League of Wives. Mm-hmm. They advocated internally, quietly at first, to have the safe and return of their spouses, but also the humane treatment because they were being tortured in the Hanoi Hilton. So it's not a well-known story, even within our military spouse community, but it's one that really adds a layer of accessibility to the military lifestyle. So, I don't know what it's like to be a POW. I don't know what it's like to fly a plane. I don't know what it's like to storm a beachhead. But I do know what it's like to worry about someone I love. And so it gives the American public access to this community through the lens and the eyes of families. And that's what I'm hoping to do.
Jennifer, I love several things that you just said there. First of all, you talked about how it was done quietly. We're in a time where there is a lot of noise, and there's a lot of spin, not a lot of substance, a lot of shouting. And but really, it's the people that are rolling up their sleeves behind the scenes and just getting things done, keeping our structures and our systems working and improving upon them. Mm-hmm. Quietly. And so I love that you're telling these stories and that you had this group of people who were like, no, this matters. So, even if the structure's not there, we're going to figure out a way to get it done. Yeah. And that's a lot what we're focusing on with this new podcast is who are the people behind the stories that are actually quietly, in all of the noise, working to get these things done. Why was it so important for you to bring these stories forward?
Well, military families, there's this expression that says, I'm just a spouse, right? It's giving voice to a population who has done so much for the community quietly behind the scenes. There's a lot of, good job, but when you have someone come up to your table and they say, thank you for your service, rarely do they know what that family member kind of gave up. Recent reports have said that military spouses lose $500,000 in income over the course of a 20-year career. And that's just average losses. You think about the lost opportunity cost. So there's a lot that we as military family members give that we need to document. We need there to be a history. And there's so many in our community who are writing that history. Corey Weathers is another wonderful author. There's so many wonderful military spouse authors working to document a more modern history. But it was important for me to write this down so that their stories wouldn't get lost if a URL breaks or, the magazine shuts down and we lose all of that history. Hearing about Sybil, it invigorated me to say, I'm not the first person to have done this type of work. she did this before and she paved the way for so many others. So it's important for us to write this down, to document it, and add to the voluminous amount of content in the military space.
Well, Jennifer, I think it's a noble effort. And it is one, I mean, you talk, and I think when we talk about red tape, real talk, right? Mm-hmm. The red tape part is about, the bureaucracy of things, right? Trimming through that and cutting through a lot of the red tape that we see in access to public services. The real talk part is what I think is in your book. Mm-hmm. And, so I'm going to ask you a real talk question here.
Ready.
Right? It's a hard one.
Okay, I got it.
I need you to choose one public servant that you cover in your book. Mm-hmm. This could be military spouse. This could be someone who contributes to public service in a way, or is a active public servant in your book. One. This is a hard question now. One.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so before when we were talking, I was given the context of a public servant, meaning elected official, which I had someone in mind. And so I'll go with that. But that is not to say that this is actually the most important person in the book. I will not say that. He is an amazing person. It's Senator Doug Jones, former senator from Alabama. He was a Democrat in a red state, and he worked tirelessly on this. We'll talk about red tape. This is kind of a topic that's harder. It's called the widow's tax, and it basically was a bureaucratic process, something called a concurrent receipt. And we'll go, you can do the fast forward this explanation or read the book and you'll find out a little more. But basically what it was is surviving spouses, Gold Star family members were having to they were not able to receive their full earned benefit. And so Doug Jones, he heard from these women and men who were in the halls of Congress for 40 years or 20 years, but they were fighting this issue for 40 years in total. And so when he heard their story, he's like, well, why is this still the case? We fixed this over here for Social Security. We fixed this in other areas. Why are we not helping America honor the promise of taking care of the families of the fallen? And it's something I think of it as Americans, like, what? Like, this is shocking. When I first met some of these mainly ladies, I was just dumbfounded that this hadn't been fixed. And so he was too. And he was like, I'm going to operate as if this is he did plenty of other things, but as if this issue is the issue. And he just got it done along with the survivors themselves, amazing nonprofits in the space. And it was really a collaborative effort to make it happen. TAPS was one, NMFA, another, MOA. There's so many amazing organizations. It was a collaborative, nonpartisan, just get it done. And he really championed it. And so he is in the book, and as are the other champions of that cause. So
I think you bring up some incredible points about, people that are closest to the problem generally are close to the solution. And so when you have these widows that are being personally impacted, and then you have somebody with the empathy, with the humanity to listen to their stories and not just hear their concerns but take action. That is true of so many of our public servants today. When they are able to connect with the people that they serve, they can firsthand understand how the public services they provide are impacting the people, and then get the great ideas from the people that are living it every day to know how to make them better. And so we just want to say thank you to you for bringing some of these stories forward. We believe everybody's service matters, and everybody's story matters. And understanding, some of the issues behind the people behind the issues brings us closer together. And we realize that, everybody has success, everybody struggles. And the more we real talk about this, some of the pain and struggles in our society, the more we're going to get to real solutions. And so thanks for joining us today on Red Tape Real Talk.
Thanks for having me.
We hope everybody will come out and buy the military stories you've been told and the ones you need to hear from Jennifer Barnhill. Thanks so much, Jennifer. We appreciate it.
Thank you.